everyone. Welcome to
Fika for Life.
My name is Edward Thomas. My co-host is
Linh Yuan. Hello.
Hey, well, Lynn. Well, we had a lot of response from the first episode that we did on Black Lives Matters.
Yes.
And so we thought we would stick with the same subject and just keep going from last time.
Well, you're still black, and I think Black Lives still matter. So
yeah, well, I guess that's not going to change.
No.
Wham.
I think I was mostly shocked when this started to hear about all the shootings and people were dying, and it started with George Floyd, but then you also heard that there were also other people before that who actually suffered from police violence and racism and systemic racism like that in the US. And I think, like, I don't watch the YouTube videos where he died and stuff because I just think it's horrible. Like, I don't understand how people could just stand there and look, and how the police can have this kind of power.
Yeah. I mean, well, the police, like my daughter was trying to tell me about how the police back home are so militarized. So the police in our hometown has tanks. Like the police force has tanks.
The police has tanks?
Yeah.
For what?
I guess...
Catching thieves?
I guess because when people are robbing the bank, a tank is what you need to stop the robbers. I don't know. But she was talking about like how many millions of dollars are used just to militarize the police.
Yeah.
So we have, and some people are calling for the police departments to be disbanded.
Oh yeah, they say what defund.
Yeah,
they
to
talked
defund
about
the police.
defund. What does it really mean to defund?
And so what it is that the police, like any part of the government, have
a budget, yeah.
And so when you defund them, what it is that you're either eliminating totally their budget, or you're eliminating parts of their budget. In this case, would be all the militarization of the police. So you would
tanks,
like tanks. Sorry, guys, you can't have tanks anymore. You can't have bazookas and all the things that.
That's really strange.
I mean, think like the police have military grade assault rifles.
So
the police are pretty much like the military, and what happens is they learn all these advanced techniques, and in the case of these people who are being shot and everything, even if they've done something wrong,
there's no reason to shoot them.
Yeah, like still doesn't justify them losing their life.
No.
Even if a person was drunk or if a person had been doing something wrong. And sometimes then the police have to remember that the reason that, like as a black person, the reason that I'm probably automatically tense. So when the police are like saying in this one video they're showing, and the police are saying, relax, relax, relax. He's like,
you're going to shoot me. I can't relax.
The guy's tensing up because he's like, okay, I think my life is in danger. No person who thinks their life is in danger is just going to relax and trust the person who might kill you.
Yeah.
It's just kind of normal.
There was it will hurt less if you relax.
Yeah, really. We won't shoot you as many times in the head. We only shoot you 2 times as opposed to 10. And so it's and I think that, like, okay, let me ask you a question. So if you were driving your car and the police stop you.
Oh, that never happened, fortunately.
Really? It's never happened?
No, it did once.
Oh, okay. And
they were jerks.
Oh.
That was in Germany. They were jerks.
Really? Yeah.
And the strange thing was they were judging me immediately because I was an Asian woman in Germany driving.
Really?
Yeah. And they're like, yeah, give me your papers, blah, blah. And we were around, I was with my mom, and we were in our Swedish registered car. In Sweden, you don't have the paper registration.
No, you don't carry it around with you.
No, you don't.
It was on the computer in Sweden. Big Brother is everywhere.
Yeah. So they were like, well, I gave them my IDs and my driver's license. And they're like, no, but you have to have paper. I'm like, no, but you don't. In Sweden, you don't. You can call the embassy. You can find out. And they're like, even in Sweden, I have it. And I mean,
wow.
There is a huge bunch, or I think there's a part in the German police force that is not as highly educated, and they usually end up in people's jokes like, what did the policeman say and stuff. And because they are not always the brightest under the sun. Anyway, so the thing is they changed their attitude towards me when I told them, like, well, I'm a Swedish citizen actually. And they're like, oh, but how come? And you have a German driver's license and your car is Swedish, but you clearly don't look either German or Swedish.
Wow.
And they were really confused. But in the end, they were kind of nicer to me. But I think it was what changed the perception was that I actually belonged to a better country than what they thought.
Yeah.
I was just a lowly immigrant in Germany.
But now you're part of the EU.
Yeah, I'm a Swede, you know.
Wow.
And you Germans like Swedish people.
Yeah. Or at least they like Swedish moose.
No, but you see that how their perception changed just because they had a
But that's the same thing. Like, so if a person sees me, they see a dark-skinned person who's obviously of African descent, and so he's African. So this is, I'm just saying, this is the way life is in Sweden. And so you get that sort of really negative response first. And then when people find out you're from America, then it's all super positive because I'm American. I'm not African. It's like, okay, what kind of weird racism is that? You're like,
you have to be the right kind of black.
The black, right? Exactly. The kind of black that don't crack. I don't know. So it's, but then at the same time, Swedish people are always questioning my Americanism.
How American you are?
Well, because people always say, so in Sweden,
someone say, Swedified too
much. Where do you come from? Oh, I come from the United States.
California, yeah.
Where? California. When did you get to California?
What? Did they ask you that?
Just last week. I was born in California. Where do your parents come from? Well, they come from the South, so they come from like Louisiana and from Arkansas.
And where do they come from?
And when did they get there? They were born there? When did their parents get there? Like, you have got to be kidding me.
You see,
how stupid are you?
You see, that's what we talked about in the last episode, that your ancestry.
Yeah.
I mean, if you say that, or you're saying that, was it 450 years of slavery?
Yeah.
There's a long line of generation to go back to finally find out.
That came to America in 1612.
So my ancestors from 1612 came from, I don't know, Kenya. I don't know where. Yeah. Where did they take most slaves from?
Well, it depends upon. So slavery was in West Africa first, but then by 1847, where most countries had outlawed. Can't even speak. Outlawed slavery. Then what happens is that so like the Arabic nations, Saudi Arabia and stuff like that, they kept the slave trade going until the 1980s, 1990s.
Really?
So most slaves after 1840 start coming from East Africa. East Africans hate to admit that because they always like to prove, like, no, we don't have any slaves coming from here. That's not true. The Arabs took a lot of slaves from East Africa, took them to the Middle East, but also transported slaves to North America because there's such a big demand for slaves into South America. Because in North America, slaves could reproduce, but in South America and in the Caribbean, the climate is so harsh, and so slaves just died after a couple of years.
Yeah, tropical disease.
Like malaria. So they kept having to import new slaves.
That's horrible.
So they just let the slaves die and then import new slaves who would die. And they didn't care as long as there was enough slaves to keep taking. So and there was such a big demand. So the illegal slave trade continued for like years.
A long time.
Yeah.
So people ask you, so where did they come from?
But the thing is that, if they meet a white American and they say, where do you come from? Oh, America. Oh, I'm from the United States. Oh, you're American. That's it.
And then like, where? And then you may say Chicago, and then that's it.
Yeah, like they'll never.
It's like, and your parents?
Yeah.
And have they Irish ancestors?
Yeah.
Or maybe Swedish ones?
Or if I tell someone, yeah, I'm part Irish, no one believes me.
It's like,
they're like,
what's your part?
Like,
what part is Irish?
my grandmother on my dad's side, her dad was white, and he was from Ireland. Duh.
And they're like,
that wasn't
can't
that far
tell.
ago. Yeah, exactly. I have freckles. If I was light enough, you could see them, but I have to know what to look for. But you have to that still bothers me a lot, because when I'm in America, no one ever calls me non-American. But when Swedes, and I don't know what gives them the right to think that they can choose who is American and not.
Movies. You say You
But you see tons of black people in movies.
but I don't know. But you say I should get educated by watching Django Unchained. I don't know. I watched it. It's a very brutal movie. So.
Yes. Well, I just mean that because those kind of movies are out there, then it's hard. Like in 2020, with the access to information being what it is, there is no way that any person in the West can claim ignorance.
Yes, they can, because the information, it's not like the internet is a sea of SH star
But there
information.
are good sources of information. You can
Yeah,
find it
but
if you really
people,
want.
but you know,
want it.
if you know that there are a lot of people who have, an opinion already,
Yeah.
and then usually they only go and dig out the information that confirms their views already.
Yeah.
So with that, I mean, you can still be ignorant,
Yeah, I guess.
even though you have so much information out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, just look at Fox News, just look at Donald Trump. I mean, information is
Wow.
it's fake news sometimes.
President Tweety Bird. He's always out there. Tweeter. No, but I think that, and like when I first moved here, I remember one of the things that made me angry when I first moved to Sweden was that, so I was watching this Pippi Longstrom movie, and she was talking about people from Asia. So she makes her eyes go like this, and she goes, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. And I was like,
That's really racist.
what the heck? What? No, that was my second racist scene. The first one was when I thought the Klan was chasing people, but that's the different story. We'll tell that.
And then
on
all
Christmas
black
time.
people are cannibalists.
No, it has to do with Lucia Tog. And
Yeah.
you had Juan Gossard. And they have the pointy white hats with the white dresses. Yeah, so and they were chasing because someone was making fun of how it's called Lucia Tog, and people go around in a circle, and some people dress up as gingerbread men, and some people are star boys, and they have these white pointy hats with these white dresses on, and I just saw people with white pointy hats and white dresses on chasing a bunch of people who were dressed up with brown clothes, and
You're like, that's not.
and I'm like, it's racist. It's the Klan chasing black people. They're going to lynch them. And I was like all upset. I mean, you can imagine my Swedish wife. She's like, why are you so upset? I'm like, this is a racist country. Why'd you bring me here? I'm going to die. She's like, Edward, calm down. Everybody does this. Oh, my God. I mean, you can imagine, you know.
Well, that was really black. Your reaction.
Yes. And I was just like, I'm like, how can you justify this? This is so racist. It wasn't racist at all. But from my perspective, because I'd never seen a Lucia Tog.
No,
So I
it was
didn't
the lack
know,
of your
so-
information.
Yeah.
You didn't.
So, I mean, but now when I tell that story a lot and people like laugh and stuff because
Because
in-
you know the background.
within Swedish culture, that is a really funny story because why would you think that? Like, it has nothing to do with the Klan.
We
it
don't
has
have
nothing to do with
KKK here. We only have,
that.
what's it called?
We have neo-Nazis.
What's it called? Front.
Oh,
What's it called?
Yeah, the National Front, the Swedish National Front.
Yeah.
We have neo-Nazis. We have the Swedish Democrats. They say they're not, but they are.
Many are.
Yeah. And all the other stupid people that support them. But anyway, we're not political, so we won't be saying anything more about that. But it really bothered me because actually Swedish people make a lot of fun of Asian people. And most Asian people here are not hip on the fact that Swedish people are making fun of you.
No.
Whether like they'll say that, so if someone says, "Oh, yeah, I can sound Chinese," ching chong 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 chong. I'm like, what the?
That's not
Like-
even remotely close.
I'm like, and even though I'm not Asian, and not just because I grew up in Chinatown, but because
He really wants to.
I
be.
don't like racism. I just don't like the thing that you're trying to make your culture seem superior by picking on something in another culture. And I think that here, certain forms of racism, not just racism towards black people, but there's certain forms of racism that are
They call it.
so acceptable here.
They call it
under the
everyday
table.
racism.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, but we are not racist, but we say this and that, and we
Yeah.
have this and these views, and we are not racist. We just,
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't joke about this anymore, then there's no freedom of speech and everything. The funny thing is, in Sweden, they always talk about political correctness, but that's only when it comes to gender.
Yeah.
not really when it comes to race. That's really strange.
Well, I mean, think like, so when I first moved here, we have these chocolate balls in Sweden.
Ooh.
And they're called negerbollar. That's what they used to be called when I first moved here.
They used to be.
Which is the word that Swedes use. It comes from the same word as the word nigger that we use in English. It comes from when Sweden got involved in the slave trade, and that's the word they use to talk. And it's used as a derogatory word for black people. So I'm just putting that out there. And just think, like, I'm in church. So I'm at church just learning Swedish, been here for a couple of years. And someone says, do you know what these are called?
What, are they joking about that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what's wrong with them?
And then I said, well, you know, that's been like it was at that time, it was like in the news that we need to change this. We can't have things that are connected, stuff like that. Just call them chocolate balls. And so they were trying to make this, because I'm the only black person at church. So they were trying to make a big joke about it. So what do you think this is called in Swedish and stuff like that?
But that's really dumb.
And then the pastor tried to justify using that word in church.
What?
Yeah. So like I've been for years, I was like fight about it all the time. I would get really upset. And they couldn't understand, like, but because we don't have words in Sweden that are really derogatory towards white people.
No.
And the thing is that the way that we use the word,
I tried to introduce one. It's Svennebanan.
Yeah, but they just laugh about it because Swedish people are.
We can call them cheese balls. Or
Cheese
something.
balls, like Donald Trump.
Pale dead pale.
But I remember that there was so if you had a group of people, the way we use the word Swede. So if you have 3 people standing in a group. And I'm like, hey, take this package and give it to the Swede. There's an Asian person, there's a black person, there's a white person. The black person and the white person, or the black person and the Asian person are Swedes. They were born here, they have Swedish passports, they speak perfect Swedish. The white person's an immigrant.
Yeah, maybe from Russia.
But 99.9% of every single person would give the package to the white person.
Yeah,
because we use the word Swede to mean someone who's white. And so when you talk about, and so what everyone says, I remember once I was like, oh, you know, I just don't want to be in Sweden anymore. And someone's like, but you're Swedish too. You have Swedish citizenship. I'm like, really? Because last week you told me I wasn't Swedish enough.
Burn.
You know, and so people are always reminding me of how, but Ed, in Sweden, I'm like my neighbor last year. I was putting up these lights because I want blinking lights. You know, in Sweden, we don't use colored lights. That's only
what?
She's like, I don't know what country you come from. Woo! My gosh. I was like,
you know, but.
And I turned around and I just said, you know, it's really a shame that so many people here don't even know they're racist. And they're more racist than the Nazis.
Woo!
And I just walked away.
But actually, when I was, I had a bank issue and I really needed help. So I was really stressed out and I went to the bank. And then this lady, who was also immigrant background, please, she wasn't all blonde and super Swedish. She was like, well, I don't know what country you are coming from, but here it's a da-da-da-da. And I was like, I was really close to just call the bank and like, I demand an apology. I demand that you fire this person because this is so racist. You don't say this kind of things, and this reputation is horrible. And I don't know. I got really upset because you don't say that. You don't ever say that.
But here in Sweden,
you don't ever say that.
Those things come out all the time. So now everyone always asks you for your ID, and they're like, oh, we ask ID from everybody. But it started because if you were an immigrant, they only asked for ID if you were an immigrant. They didn't even, like, I remember going to the bank like 5 years ago, and I would, when they still let you come to the bank and they took money. They don't take money in Sweden anymore. But I went to the bank and I was like, she's like, oh, well, what's your name? Edvard Thomas.
Swedish pronunciation.
She's like, what? Like Edward Thomas? What? Edward? No. You know, she scrunches up her face. She's like, could you write that down? Like, you have got to be kidding me.
I mean, there's a Swedish version of Edward. Yeah. The only difference is it's spelled with
a V.
A V.
Of W.
Yeah. So she shouldn't play dumb.
No. But that was like, and it's always these like small, or when I go to the store, So I go to the store. I speak Swedish. I'm kind of fluent, you know. Like, I guess I have to since I work as a priest in the Church of Sweden.
Yeah. So
Anyway, so I go to the store and I'm like, "Hey, jag skulle vilja köpa två par byxor." So I want to buy 2 pairs of pants. And the lady at the counter, she's like, "Oh, what size do you want?" I'm like, and she kept speaking English.
did you continue Swedish?
And then I was like, "Why are you speaking to me?" And I was just like really angry. I was like, "Why are you speaking Swedish to me?" English to me.
Yeah.
I'm speaking Swedish to you. You don't answer back. What the hell is your problem?
Woo.
Because I was like pissed off.
Woo.
And I decided that I'm just not going to let people get away with that.
No.
But then
Just call
from
them out.
Swedish standards, now I'm being aggressive.
They want to be nice. They
And-
just like, I just wanted to make your life easier because I thought you were struggling with Swedish.
No, because I noticed that if I'm in a group with people and while we're speaking Swedish and I go to order something, they automatically start speaking English.
But
Because Swedish people don't think that black people can speak Swedish.
wow.
Even if we speak Swedish. I mean, that's
Even if you are Swedish.
even if you are Swedish. But that's one of the differences. Like, I notice, like, even if I'm in a group of people and we're speaking Swedish, and when I come there, like, they'll speak to all the white people in Swedish, and I get there and they only speak in English. Then I'm like so pissed off. I'm just like, it's bubbling. Just like, I don't want to follow Jesus right now. Satan, give me advice. You know, and just like, he's like, punch him in the mouth. I'm like, okay, sounds good. You know, and so it's
That's funny.
but okay, so here when we had the Black Lives Matters rally here in Sweden,
It was in Stockholm.
yeah, I was in
Yeah.
Stockholm, and it really wasn't a lot of rioting because it's
Swedes.
Sweden.
They don't riot.
Yeah,
They riot by not paying their taxes.
exactly. We're not gonna say that you're a mean person. Everyone's like, they called us mean. We have to change the laws. But what it did was that it surprised me because I never expected that kind of response from people in Sweden. And it wasn't just black people in Sweden. It was people of different colors, with black people and white people and all kinds of people that felt like something's happening in the world and people are becoming aware of this and stuff in a different kind of way. So it's something's changed from all the other years when black people were getting killed by the police.
No one give a damn.
No. But now it seems to matter to people. And maybe it's Corona. Maybe it's just being home. Thank you, Corona. If it was, I don't mean because we're glad because the people died, but without the pandemic, maybe people wouldn't really be
That
open
engaged
to the things that maybe we need to do things a little bit better in this world. In Sweden, and especially in America. America is still way worse and more dangerous. I'm afraid of the police here, but not in the same way as I am back home.
But you shouldn't be afraid in Sweden that someone will shoot you.
Yeah.
No.
But I am.
You
I'm
are.
going to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever I see a police car that drives past me, my heart beats really fast.
Really?
I start sweating. Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Like Crazy D, he knows that.
Especially when you are on your motorcycle.
Yeah. Well, that's because I'm driving too quickly, but that's another kind of fear.
Yeah, exactly.
Tickets are really expensive in Sweden.
That's not race depending.
No, but I am, because I mean, there's been times like when I've worked here in the church. So we're recording in a church that I used to work at, and I was the youth priest here.
Yeah.
And sometimes kids would get
In
rowdy
trouble,
or they're
yeah.
on drugs or whatever. And we had to call the police, and the police would always go directly to, even though I'm the priest. I got the priest collar on.
Yeah.
And they go directly to one of the youth leaders because
kids?
they're white. Yeah.
Ugh.
And it happens all the time. And they're like, well, he's the guy that's in charge. Oh, okay. Like,
Because black people can be in charge?
Yeah, or like people can still be surprised that here's this black priest that shows up at the door.
Yeah.
Even though this is 2020.
Well, people have a very cemented view on what they expect when they hear the word priest, church, leader.
Church of Sweden.
Yeah.
The church for white Swedish people. Oh, did I just say that again? Burn. Whoa, sorry.
Don't be so bitter about it.
I didn't mean to out you again.
Don't be so bitter about it. You're just supposed to accept it.
I know.
Haven't you learned all these years?
I get my salary. I just got it today from the Church of Sweden. I love you, Church of Sweden.
Exactly. There's what do you want more? You
I'm
get
gonna
your
out
salary.
Exactly. You get money. I'm not treating you like a slave. Really? I work a lot of hours. I'm not making that much money.
Compared to how many hours I have to work.
Yeah, exactly. Give me more money.
So do you feel that now is the time where there will be real change with this movement?
I think it's possible that we can make change. I think that we can make change here in Sweden. I think we can make change in the States. And I think, I'm not sure if getting rid of the police force is better, because countries that do that tend to have the military as police, and things get really bad. But I do think that if we're going to make change, now is the time to do it. And it's got to be more than just immediate change. I want a better world for my children. I want a better world for your kids.
A systemic change.
Yeah. Like, I don't want our children having to feel that they have to work twice as hard to be equal.
Ooh, that's what my mom told me. She always grinded me that you always have to work double as much to compared to any German person, because you're an immigrant. I'm like, okay.
But that's so stupid to have that kind of thought, that you can't, like, the playing field's not even fair.
No,
You're expected to be twice as good, twice as hard, do twice as much, just to get the same. That means you're only getting half.
Yeah, but I think on one hand, it's one thing to cope with reality, because that my mom told me, not because she was mean. She told me she would prepare me for life, and not to be bitter about it. But on the other hand, on the other hand, it's not about just sitting there and complaining, I won't do anything because it's not equal, it's not the same. So you have to have this balance. On one hand, it's
complain.
on one hand, you gotta accept how it's now, and on the other hand, you also want to drive to change that for future generations.
Well, I think it's harder for us, for African Americans, especially because things are pretty bad. You know, it's not just discrimination. There's the violence that seems to be okay to perpetrate against people just because of the color of their skin. And for us, I mean, with the histories of lynchings and with slavery and the Jim Crow laws and all those kind of things, it's a different kind of thing, you know, because you never really get to be accepted or anything. And it's not just in the job market, it's when health issues. So the coronavirus seems to be affecting black people and Latinos, you know, more than anyone else. And no one can say why.
It's also in Sweden.
Engineered that way.
No, but it's also in Sweden that migrant groups are much harder hit than the regular population.
Yeah. And that has to do with access to things. It has to do with
language.
And
also culture.
Language is important because everything is in Swedish. And if you don't understand Swedish very well, you're not going to know what's going on. You're not going to know what's going on. You're going to be outside the loop. Yeah. So that's just the way it is. But in the States, you don't even have to learn English. I know people in Chinatown. I grew up with people in Chinatown who did not learn English. They only spoke Chinese.
But the thing is, in those cultures, usually, like I grew up, my parents, I had to translate for them. So it's always the kids or younger generations who have learned the language who are there to translate and do this and that. And also in Sweden, you have, culturally, you have this many generation households that are more common among other cultures than Swedish cultures.
Yeah.
So obviously, if the elderly are at risk and you maybe live 5-6 people in a 3-room apartment, how are you supposed to isolate them?
Yeah. That's because Swedes don't have that. Okay. And I know Swedish people are going to get upset, but the family ties in Sweden are not that strong.
They're very loose.
You know, once you get a certain age, you just kind of leave and you're on your own. And those people, you see them every now and then.
Yeah. It depends on the family, though.
Not every family.
But most families have a very loose tie like this.
It's really weird. So,
well, people, our time for today is over.
Wow, already. Man.
Well, Black Lives
Matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're out there and you're, and really feel free to write to us and tell us your story.
We have listeners from Africa, and we have a lot of listeners from the U.S.
Exactly.
So there must be Black lives among them.
We hope so.
We don't want to be a podcast only for white people and non-black people.
Exactly. We want to be a podcast for everybody.
Yes.
Whether you're old or young, fat or skinny, black or white. Whether you come from Asia, South America, Antarctica, Africa, Europe, North America. I think that's all the continents.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't
Australia.
know. Australia. Oh, I forgot one. Burn. But seriously, we hope this changed. When we started our church, Cross Culture, it's because we believe that there's a possibility that having a church that's not based on one particular race or culture or ethnicity is a strength. We believe that that's something that makes us strong, and we believe that that's something that reflects the love of God better than just having everyone being the same. It's not easy.
Nope.
But we're still doing this. I guess it must be okay.
Still around after 10 years. So,
and we hope that wherever you're at, that, let your voice be heard. Make a change, make a difference.
Yeah.
I think this is the time. I think this is finally the time where people of color and people in the dominant culture have an opportunity to forge something new together. Not just one or the other, but to forge something new and to make a real significant change and a better world for our children and grandchildren. So keep up the fight and keep up the good work, everybody.
Yes. Thank you for listening.
Yes, sir. Thanks for listening to Fika for Life.
Fika for Life. Bye. Thank you for listening. If you have any comments or ideas, please send us a message to fikaforlife@mail.com. Fika, F-I-K-A. This was the Fika for Life podcast with Linh Nguyen and Edward Thomas, and we hope to hear you again.